thank you very much for being here. This is Laura Schaefer. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce. I don't think she really needs much of an introduction. Pretty much any New York Times bestselling book was probably written by her. So, legitimately, you're the most famous, unfamous person, I guess you can say, if that makes sense.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, as a ghostwriter, one of the challenges of self-promotion is I can't usually talk about what I'm working on.
Right.
So that makes it tough. But I love my job, so no complaints.
I totally feel you. Sometimes I'm working with people like I can't even imagine, and I can't say who I'm working with. I can't market like, you see on websites like we work with, Home Depot and whatever it is, and in my business you can't do that. That's totally not okay. So anyway, so thank you very much for being here. Where are you from originally?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. As you can see, it's really beautiful here. I'm in Florida. I moved here 5 years ago from Wisconsin.
All right.
Love Wisconsin. I go back every summer, but the winters are pretty harsh. So
that's what I hear.
Maybe one of those splits your time between authors. So Madison, Wisconsin, and Orlando, Florida.
There we go. I'm in Miami Beach, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I was in Wisconsin a couple of times. I went to school in Chicago, so a couple of my friends went to.
Great.
Yeah, a couple of my friends transferred over from University of Wisconsin, Madison, I believe. So he took us up there for a couple of weekends. A lot of breweries.
Yep, my alma mater.
There we go.
On Wisconsin, go Badgers.
There we go. There we go. Everyone I meet from there is fun, regardless. Everyone is fun.
It's a great school.
Yeah.
Super fun time at Wisconsin.
There we go.
I loved it so much that I just kept living there for like 15 more years after. So.
I'm glad. You remember any of it or no?
Yeah, I was a good student, actually.
All right, good.
Almost a straight A student. So I had fun, but I mostly studied. Yeah.
All right, there we go. There we go. You a big football fan at all?
Yep. All the students could go to the games. We could get season passes, so it was fun. There's a big student section with certain cheers, and we actually jump up and down on the bleachers, and I can't believe that is okay and safe, but it's fine. Nothing's ever gone wrong that I'm aware of.
Thank God you're here. Thank God you're here.
I'm here. Yep. I survived.
So how did you get into writing from the beginning? Was this something that you've always wanted to do as a little girl?
Not exactly, but I've always been a huge reader. And my parents are awesome and definitely always said that you should do something you enjoy and, work should be something you love. And so when it did become time for me to pick a career, writer sounded pretty sweet. So I didn't get serious until I was in college, and I edited the literature page of the Daily Cardinal, which is one of the student newspapers at the University of Wisconsin. It was really so great because I got to meet some best-selling authors and talk to them in depth about, what their lives were like. And I met Mona Simpson, and she was so thoughtful, and she really kind of scared me a little because she said that writing was very isolating and could be very lonely. And, that really stuck with me, and it's true, but it's also, I'm well suited for it. I like working alone, and I like being in charge of my time, and, lunch dates are fun. So there's a way to get out and meet people and, do stuff like this and meet people online. So I've made it work. And it was just really cool to have that early introduction and meet somebody who is so successful. So right after graduating in 2001, I said, I'm going to write. And I've never had a real job since. So I made it work. Yeah. Almost 20 years now.
Right. It's like a professional athlete was like, yeah, I never had a real job. I will take a job any day of the week. Absolutely.
There have been some dark moments for sure where I question my decisions. But now I feel like I've hit the glide path and I know what I'm doing and I found my way and it's great.
It sounds
I couldn't be more grateful to have found the path.
I mean, I try to do a little bit of a digging, like to see like what kind of works you've been involved with. I mean, it seems like you've been quite successful up until this point. So, I mean, it's really fascinating. It's really amazing what you've been able to accomplish.
Well, like most authors, there's like a lot of this. So
like that in business too.
Any ghostwriter who you can hire to write your book starts out writing their own books, and that's what I did. So one of my first books was about the history of personal ads. It was way back in 2005. I was so young, and I got to be on Good Morning America, and I didn't even know what to think about that, but it was really great. And it was like sort of a sign from the universe that I was on the right path. Like, I'm 25 years old and I'm talking to Diane Sawyer.
Right. Right.
And then from there, I turned to young adult, middle grade fiction, and that was awesome. And one thing I learned is that unless people were writing books that are selling millions of copies, they would also do other things. So teaching is very common. And so I was writing curriculum for a long time. And once I learned that people would hire me to write their books for them, that was like way better to me. It's like, that sounds so much more fun. I love writing books. I have the focus to do it and do it fast. And so I settled into being a full-time ghostwriter about 3 to 4 years ago, and I have not looked back since. I love it.
Wow. Was there like this aha moment where someone went up to you and be like, would you mind writing my book for me?
There were a few aha moments. After my daughter was born, she's 6 now, I got hired to write what we called a long form article, but it was like very long, like 60 pages. And it was to teach people how to be a full stack web developer. And then another one was a guide to Ruby on Rails programming, which I know nothing about.
Okay.
But I got hired to do these long kind of book-like projects, and I really did a good job, and like interviewed all different people and put it together and got like a ton of positive feedback for that, and the pay was great. And instead of having to hustle for a project every week or every month, I like worked on that for a while, and I was like, oh, I should be writing books, duh. And so then LinkedIn got a lot stronger as a platform to meet clients. And then I met my next client, and that was the CEO of an association. And he just kind of took a leap of faith with me because I didn't have a ton of experience writing or ghostwriting. But that worked out awesome. And just from there, it's like I really haven't looked back. I'm like, I can do this. I'm good at it. And now I've, ghostwritten probably 10 or 12 books now. And it's just great. Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing. I know you've mentioned a book that you're currently writing, which we can't say for who it's for, but
we can't say. It's famous person, yay!
It's very impressive. It's very impressive.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
I bet you a lot of people are gonna, because everyone obviously always wants to get more business and things like that. How are you able to get your first big client, your CEO of an association, to kind
of? It was actually because of LinkedIn, which is how I met you.
Right.
That's a hugely useful platform.
Amazing.
I actually could be posting more than I am because I'm usually working. But they have something called ProFinder, where if you need a ghostwriter, you can put out the call. And my client did that, and I responded. And I remember at our first meeting, I said, "Ooh, I bet you were inundated by people." And he's like, "You have no idea." But he had gotten my Twitter feed, and I've been tweeting since like the beginning, since like 2008, 2009. And I think he could kind of tell, like, I'm a real person with a sense of humor and like a good heart, Yeah. And so I had that sort of record of being me online that he looked to, and that helped a lot. So I kind of would want to say to younger authors, younger writers, like, anytime you can just be yourself online, that effort's not wasted. You never know who might check that out in the future, So
100%.
Be positive and share yourself in a way that is authentic, and that's really you, because you never know who that's going to connect with.
Oh, 100%. Like, people always say people do business with other people, or people do business with their friends. Like, even when I spoke to you on LinkedIn, you were very, very easy to talk to. It kind of felt, it was more personable. And
oh, thanks.
And that's kind of why, I thought you were a great candidate for this. Sure. So that's kind of why I asked, because I'm not just going to ask anybody. Like, there are a lot of people on LinkedIn that I do not want to talk to.
I know. It can be overwhelming for sure. Yes. I mean, the job of a ghostwriter is really interesting, because on the one hand, I really have to be a good writer. And that's something that happens when I'm alone at my computer. But probably even more important is that people have to enjoy talking with me. You know, my job wouldn't work at all if I couldn't interview people. And so they have to feel kind of safe and comfortable. And, you know, I share my own stuff with clients as needed. You know, it's not about me, but if I can make somebody comfortable by saying like, yeah, I get it, I've been through that, you know, I will. So it's good.
Was there a learning process in terms of that interview process? Because I'm sure if you're going to write somebody's book, you're going to want to know almost everything to the detail. Was there a big learning process there?
Yeah.
Was there any difficulty in that?
One thing I say about being a ghostwriter is that I would not have been good at it in my 20s. I really think you need to have some life experience. I feel like you need to have suffered a little to do the job well. So when I first started ghostwriting, I would prepare very lengthy question sets for my author clients, and I still do that. I like to be prepared. But now I trust myself more to just be in the moment with them, like as human to human. Just try to really listen and find points of connection and empathy, you know. And one of the biggest challenges I have is I really want people to go deep with me. And, you know, it's not enough just to summarize your life. I want you to really put me there in the moment when, you know, something happened, something bad maybe even, but made you stronger. Because a story is not good unless we really feel it, unless we're really there with you.
100%. That's probably why people respond to you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They know they're talking to a real human being, and that's a big challenge, you know, online for sure.
It is. And there's a lot of ghostwriting services out there where you're not sure exactly who you're getting. Some ghostwriters use subcontractors, and I don't. It's me. Like the only help that I have is like sometimes I'll hire a transcriptionist. If you hire me, I'll often, you know, I can hire a cover designer for you if you want me to deal with that. But otherwise, it's just you and me.
Right.
That's it.
Hey, listen, there's a reason why the type of people are reaching out to you. There's a reason, right?
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for 3 to 4 years, you said, right?
Yep.
What do you
Although I've been writing for almost 20, so it feels longer.
Wow. You seem kind of young. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you seem kind of young for, you know, you started when
I am 40. I am not young. Thank you,
wow,
though.
Unbelievable. So going back to your college days, you said you met with, I forget her, what was her name again?
Mona Simpson.
Mona Simpson.
She's actually Steve Jobs' half-sister.
Get out of here.
Also a very famous author.
Wow. So it must have been unbelievable to meet her. I mean,
it was, and I didn't even properly appreciate it at the time.
From what you said, though, it sounded like she said something that was very scary in a sense. It's like, you know, if you do, it's like typically they'll say something nice to encourage you, and it sounded like, no, this job is not as easy as it looks. You will be alone a lot.
Yeah, she got very real with me about it, and she was absolutely right. Writing can be very isolating, but that was a different time also. I mean, you know, 2000, 2001, that, you know, the internet was a thing, but it wasn't like social media hadn't arrived yet. You know, it's a little easier now to be in your office at home than it was then.
So I'm just curious on how something like that wouldn't scare you, especially you were 20 years old at the time and you still went ahead, you know?
Well, she was just talking about the negative side, about, you know, being lonely. And I just thought it was really great that she was honest, because you really listen to people when they tell you both sides, you know?
100%. Was she more like, she focused on like the realities and then she started talking to you about it? Or was she very encouraging and then at the end she's like, by the way, this is what you can expect?
At that time, I didn't even know that I was headed down the road of a writer and an author. So I was probably just asking her about her life in pretty general terms. And she's just a very deep, thoughtful person. So she was going to give me the real answer. And then another author that I met at that time is Douglas Copeland. He is actually the one who invented the term Gen X, which is what I am. I'm at the tail end of it. He was talking about how your 20s are a train wreck. I just turned 20 and I was like, what?
Wow.
That's pretty funny. We were actually at a restaurant and the the woman who was waiting on us was in her 20s, maybe like 22. And she was like, not going to leave our table. They started talking because she was like, this is true. It was really interesting.
Well, is it a fair thing to say that I'm 26? I definitely feel like listen, I'm very, very strong about this opinion. I got a head start. Let's say that. Let's say I got a head start at 17.
Good. You know what? Just like lean into it. It's fine.
100%.
Suffer.
100%.
Because it definitely does get better. Like my 30s are better than my 20s. I've only been 40 for, 8 months or whatever now, but that's been better than my 30s already. So yay, it's better.
Hey, listen, you're someone you're a big motivation, to be honest with you, because there are people who, that say they had an unbelievable high school career or college career, and then like their whole lives are just looking in the past. Man, it was so great back then. You seem to be every day, you're just happier than the last. It's unbelievable.
It's true. It's true. That was not always this way, but moving to Florida and getting some extra vitamin D and listening to some motivational podcasts really put my brain in order. So yeah,
there you go.
I started running like a crazy person.
Beautiful. Well, you fit right into Miami. We do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Also, just try to monitor the roads, because some people feel the sidewalk is a part of the road. We were voted #1 worst drivers in America. Asterisk, I am not included in that study.
Yeah, I hear that. It's dangerous out there.
So take me through a day. So take me through a normal day that you go in.
So one of the most important things I do is interview my clients, usually for about 45 minutes or an hour. From there, I usually generate a transcript of the interview, either by sending it to somebody to do that for me, or I use an AI application called Otter, which works really well.
Interesting.
And then I look at the transcript and try to make sense of it, put it into sentences. And from there, it's just me at the computer. Sometimes I need to do research about something they've mentioned. My job would have been so much harder 25 years ago than it is now. Right. So I'm spending time doing research. I'm spending time just writing, looking at what I have and making it make sense, trying to keep it in my author's voice. And then when it's appropriate, I'll send the draft to my author. Everyone is different. Sometimes they want it, continuously. Sometimes they want me to just write the whole book and then send it to them. Mm-hmm. Usually I work pretty intensely for about 4 to 5 hours a day. That's about it. And then the rest is either running, fitness, making dinner for my family, taking care of my daughter.
Man, where do I sign up?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good life. It really is.
It is a good life. It is a good. No wonder you're smiling so much.
I'm really lucky. It's great.
Thank God. Yeah. So when you do your research, does that include Wikipedia, or where do you? Where's your?
Gotta be careful about your sources, man.
Yeah, I'm just messing.
I mean, yeah, I would use Wikipedia, but you gotta check stuff.
Of course.
A lot of times, I'll just ask my clients what they want me to be reading. Right. It depends on the project.
Like I always thought of it like, I read, a book about Howard Schultz. I always thought like the person was like sitting there, like intent, going through it back and forth. But do you have clients that way, or they're more of hands-on?
No. The main reason anyone would hire a ghostwriter is because they don't have enough time to write a book themselves. I mean, a lot of these people are talented writers, and they could do it themselves if they had the time. So my goal is to make it easy for them and only take up an hour or 2 of their time a week. And so a lot of times how it works is I'll send them maybe an introduction or the first chapter so they can just check that like I have a brain and it's fine.
Well,
they can trust me.
You know that for sure.
And then from there, sometimes I'll just work on the entire book before they see it. And then once they see the draft, it is more collaborative. I'll even put it in Google Docs so we can live chat or, respond to each other's comments. Mm-hmm. And then at that week, I need more of their time than just an hour.
It sounds like you can be cranking out these books in a week and a half.
No, that'd be awesome for the bottom line, but it takes longer than that. Usually about 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you come up, when you get all of your information, do you come up with an angle for a book, or is that something you discuss with your client?
I usually challenge my client to come up with, how they want to approach it. and that can evolve over time, and it can change right in the middle of the project, and that's fine too. But the best thing is if they have a plan right from the start, and I really want to establish a table of contents right from the start. Sure. So we're not just flying blind. Sometimes in the middle, I'll be like, we need to dig deeper here. Like, this is good, but it's not great, you know. Right. What else you got? But that's,
well, I know your life is more interesting than this.
Well, I mean, people sometimes can be a little shy about what they want to share, but the more vulnerable you're willing to be, the better. You know, the more you're likely to connect with your reader.
That's where your personality kind of, I think, brings a ton of value, because people can feel very non-judged, I guess, in your like I'm talking to you. I feel like I can say almost anything, to be honest.
It's true. And I am very open-minded and non-judgmental. So I encourage that. I'm like, let's get weird. Let's talk about it. I'm in.
Can I ask what the weirdest thing ever came up in one of the discussions, or is that?
I cannot say, because my clients trust me and I don't want them to know what I think is weird. So yeah, no.
Of course. Not that if it's made public yet. So I know, I have to ask.
It's a good question. I wish I could answer it, but I'm not going to.
I know. People push me for stuff too. I can't say, unfortunately. Especially on a recorded video, whatever it is. So it sounds like people, do you get calls almost every, because you said you're kind of on cruise control at this point, because you're already, very established.
So yeah, I pay Google to show my website to people, and I pay LinkedIn, to show my stuff to people. So it's not too bad. Like, I do consult calls a few times a week, and then my goal is maybe to take on one new client every 2 months or so. Right. Kind of keep it rolling. Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, to be honest with you,
it's a lot. Yeah, it's kind of a lot. That might be too much, actually. I can work on about 2 or 3 books at one time, but no more than that.
But if you're
usually they're at different stages too.
Sure. If you're getting a few consults a week, that's a lot, to be honest. Especially,
it's a lot, but people can't really afford me. So once they hear the price, they're like, oh.
There you go. There you go.
I actually put my prices on my website. So if you're curious, it's lauraschaeferwriter.com. You can go look. It's not cheap.
Listen, you pay for quality. You pay for quality. Yep. Listen, if you want the Greyhound bus, it's $18, whatever it is. But if you want first class service and you get Laura Schaefer smile,
yeah, you gotta pay.
You want to work for the best. You want to work with the best, and your clients obviously want to work with the best, because they're celebrity type, they're a high-end executive, they're going to want a book that's well written, working with someone who's very professional, who's very good, and obviously they're choosing you for a reason.
Yeah, it's true.
So anything on the horizon, anybody you wish you can work with, like your number one?
Ooh, I love that question. You know who I would love to write a book with is Amy Schumer.
Amy Schumer, really?
Yeah, I love comedians. I love comedy. And she's really out there on social media, really honest about what she's going through with IVF right now. And I think it's a book that she needs to write. And I think I need to write it with her. So thank you for asking.
I'll make some phone calls for you. You hear that, Amy Schumer? There we go. We'll reach out. Yeah. Hey, I want to put it past you. You never know. You never know. The opportunity always might come up.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So I'm just like in awe of the fact that I even had this opportunity to interview you. This is really.
Oh, thank you. This is great really for me too. I'd love to, kind of explain what I do, because most people don't get it.
Nobody knows what I do. I can't even explain. Like, I explain it in 3 days. People still have no idea what I do. So.
What do you do, Max?
What do I do? Long story short, I get businesses free money from class action settlements. That's the short gist of what I do. So what's the biggest misconception about you that you'd like to square away with everyone?
Well, people just don't really know what ghostwriters are or what we do. They just have never heard of it before. Or they think that hiring a ghostwriter is somehow like a shortcut or shameful, and it's not at all. Like, every person who's very successful will hire a ghostwriter because they don't have time to write a book, and it's fine. And it really is a collaboration. It's my clients' books are their books. I like to think of myself as like software. you know, like sentient software. So just because you hire me does not mean it is your book. That's the biggest thing I want people to understand.
Right.
I'm just making it easier and faster.
Oh, 100%. Listen, if you wanted to write a book about me, by the way, hint, hint, I'm totally available for that. But I have ADHD. There's no way I'm going to sit there and write a book about myself. I'd hire someone like you who actually knows how to do this, who does it very well. And there's no way I could do this on my own. Forget about it.
And I think it's going to become a more and more common profession going forward, because everybody needs to kind of establish their own voice and their own brand online. And one way to do that is by writing a book. And so
100%.
What I'm here to help people do.
100%. Do you feel that this was an up and coming type of industry? Because I do, like, nowadays, I feel like almost everybody's coming out with their own book.
Yeah, I think I entered it at the exact right moment. So I'm very grateful to have been born when I was born and to live where I live. And yeah, I just feel really lucky.
That's awesome. So who has been the funnest, I guess if that's a word, client that you've worked with, who you can actually say you've worked with?
Probably Ken Moskowitz. He is the CEO of Ad Zombies, and his book was super fun to write. He's full of energy. He's got a very well-organized mind, and he has a ton of value to share with his readers. His book is called Jab Till It Hurts. It's all about how he used Gary Vaynerchuk's advice to build a 7-figure business in like 6 months or something crazy like that. Love Ken. We're going to do another book together at some point, and he's great. You should definitely check out his stuff because he's got a lot to share.
I mean, someone with a company named Ad Zombies has to be interesting, right?
He's so cool and fun. Yeah.
You can't have a company called Ad Zombies and be like, you know, that very straight, noble personality.
Yeah, we tell the story of how he launched the business in the book, and it was fun. He is super creative guy, super creative.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. This has been unbelievable. This has been absolutely an experience for me. You are my first actual professional interview, if you call this a professional interview. I think the fact that you're on here makes it professional.
That's right.
There you go. There you go. There you go. And I really appreciate you being here. And right before we end off, was there anything else that you'd like to share or something that we haven't covered?
Just if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm totally open. Laura Schaefer, you can find me online at Laura Schaefer Writer. I have another website that I just launched called ghostwriterforcoaches.com. I love working with executive coaches, business coaches, life coaches. I really believe in the power of coaching. And so I'm your person if you want to write a book. But yeah, this has been really fun, and you had great questions, and I'm glad we connected.
Thank you. I hope to meet sometime soon. And by the way, I totally endorse her myself.
Thank you.
I totally endorse her. She's actually been very fun, very professional to work with.